Hello viewers, welcome to Sunday Politics on Trust Television, coming to you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital city. I am Ali M. Ali, your host. The presidential campaigns are here. In 3 short days, they will begin. Apart from the main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, most of the political parties are yet to constitute a campaign council, barely 72 hours to kick-off time. The Labour Party is among. I won't be surprised if by now the list is out. However, its presidential candidate, Peter Obi, continues to excite a lot of Nigerians, especially the youth. His bid is powered by the Obidiendt movement. Obi's bid is perceived differently by different people. His staunchest critics are dismissive, describing him as a regional and social media product, lacking the structure to face a national election. His supporters, however, unexpectedly to disagree. They, unlike his traducers, describe him as representing hope. They point at his record of achievement as governor of Anambra State and fiscal discipline, as strongly recommending him for a presidential mandate. Well, joining me to discuss and assess the Obidiendt movement nationwide is Nana Sani Kazawari, an Obidiendt, and Abdulaziz Suleiman, spokesperson of the coalition of Northern Group. Unfortunately, Abdulaziz is on his way, is yet to be here, but Nana is here. Nana, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, before we continue, we'll take a quick break, and when we return, our guest will give us an assessment of Obidiendt movement nationwide with Nana Sani Kazawari. Stay tuned. Don't go away.
That's great. It's good to see you.
Welcome back. If you are just tuning in, you are watching Sunday Politics on Trust Television. Our guests are Nana Sani Kazawari, an Obidiendt, and Abdulaziz Suleiman, spokesperson of the coalition of Northern Group, who is yet to be here. But before he gets here, Nana is here in the studios. Let me begin with you, Nana. Give us an assessment of the Obidiendt movement nationwide. What is your assessment?
My assessment of the Obidiendt movement is, I look at it as a little tiny whirlwind that has morphed into what it is today. From a little tiny whirlwind, it has morphed into a hurricane. Initially, we were even calling it the sweltering harmattan, but right now, the way it has swept over the nation, it's palpable, it's real, you know, and it's exciting to watch, because right now, the youth are saying, we want to be involved. They want to be participatory in, you know, ushering in a new government, a new order, if you will. And the assessment, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as you can see, the growth is tremendous in leaps and bounds. The love, the camaraderie is something like I've never seen before in Nigeria, and it makes me proud to be on the pulse and to be part of such a movement.
So, well, when you say the youth especially, are you talking about perhaps, I don't know, because the youth could be anything between 60 and downwards, you know? I mean, 18 to 60. Some people say, yeah, so what demographics are you talking about now?
I'm looking at the demography. Well, if you look at the INEC documents that have been out, we've had over 14 million new registered voters, and the demography is between the ages of 18 to 35, which form a huge demography, even in Nigeria's population. And That's a huge deal. That's a big deal for Nigerian politics. It's a huge leap. It means that from 18 to 35 and above, people want to be counted. They have one vote and they're ready to cast those votes.
Well, it's still
for their conscience.
Yeah, for their conscience.
That's a very
that's a very, you're very upbeat. I can see too you are equally excited being part of the Obidiendt movement. But a lot of people still will say that the Obidiendt movement is actually more of a social media product. I don't know how you react to that. That there are so much of Obidiendt in cyberspace. How do you react to that?
I'll say two things. The first I'll say is social media must not be ignored. It's the way we communicate now. It's the way we convey our messaging. And it's not run by robots. We are not robots.
Some people seem to think that way, especially if you look at those who are also in the presidential race, the other political parties, especially the leading political parties, the All Progressive Congress and the People Democratic Party,
and
PDP.
Honestly, they are entitled to those opinions. What I will also say is this. There's one who is running now for the presidential candidacy. If I recall correctly, he actually announced his bid for the candidacy for presidency via Facebook. So why would he now be dismissive? Why would those people now be dismissive years later that there is a heavy social media presence for people who support my candidate Peter Obi, my principal? Let's cast our minds back to all the rallies that have been going on. That shows you there are people behind the rallies, and the beauty about it is how organic it is. People aren't forced. People are putting their resources together. They're coming out and saying, I support this person. That's the beauty of democracy, where your voice is heard, where you can say to another. I think when we were growing up, there was this fear. There was a time where people couldn't even say who it is they would rather show their support for. But you can see that the time is changing and people are coming out to say beforehand, this is my candidate, this is whom I choose, and we're standing for it. And so you've seen rallies in Benue State, in Plateau State. We've heard of the rallies in Nasarawa State, and the list goes on and on. Cross River State, Rivers State. People are coming out en masse to have these rallies, to make their voices known, to let you see when they say 1 million man march and you see more than 1 million people come out. That's a very strong message, and it's a positive message too.
Now, talking about these rallies, people say sometimes these rallies, like it's done, that actually people could be induced to attend such rallies, that some of these rallies are actually the same people you see in the Obi 1 million man march or 2 million man march. Will be the same faces you will see if there is, for example, a rally by PDP, a rally by APC. How do you react to that? That these crowds could be rented. They are rented crowd.
Those are the antecedents of those who are from the past. So it's okay if people feel that could happen. That's not what's happening now. These people are coming out on their own. They are not going to be rented. They've proven time and time again. I'll give you an example. This is a personal example. It happened to me over the weekend. My son took ill and I rushed him to the hospital. Upon getting to the hospital, the lab attendant was scheduled to have closed, but something had delayed him, and he overheard a phone call that I made to one of my bosses, and he stayed on till the next day to ensure that my son's lab reports came out. And being the Nigerian that I am, I said, oh, let me give him something for transport. And he refused. Why? His identity. Madam, you're obedient. I'm obedient. He stayed beyond the call of duty. And I cannot appreciate that enough. And everywhere when people can recognize you and everything, there's that love, there's that unity. I doubt very much that you'll see the same crowds on the rallies for the other people. The people who are Obidients, who are following the Obidiendt move, they're the purest of spirits. And I love the tenacity. And I love the fact that they keep themselves informed. So you see, the way things happened in the past, I really doubt that this crop of Nigerians will do things the same way as have been done in the past. We've seen how dangerous this is. We've seen how detrimental to progress this is. I doubt we're going to do things like that this time around. I'm optimistic and I'm hugely positive.
Now, well, yeah, experience. Well, let's look at it being an Obidiendt yourself, a young person, so to say, a young mother, being in the Obidiendt movement. What new experiences, I don't know, yeah, level of involvement, political involvement in the past, but what have we experienced being in the Obidiendt movement vis-a-vis the usual? If you look at it, there are lots of fault lines. And more often than not, people see, they say perception, the optics around the Obidiendt movement is beyond where the presidential candidate, you can't take away the region he comes from. What are our own experiences? I mean, being totally from a different...
My experiences have been very contrary to what you hear in the news and what you read in the platforms. I have seen people from all walks of life. I've seen people from different regions in this country who are part of the Obidiendt. There's an open door policy. I don't see, it's not stringent. You don't feel like an outsider. There's a very warm welcome, even from the party and even from those of us who are part of the campaign team. When you say the optics, I'll also point out that I have noticed that there are a lot of women. The whole Obidiendt movement has been very, very inclusive of men, women, young people, and that's where Nigeria wants to go now.
Well, you see, talking about that, the demographics, accepted, people say most changes that, especially in political changes in some elsewhere, like people point at the defining roles, the defining moment, youth actually, their participation altered the course of history. The Arab Spring, for example, exactly. I'm just going there. The young people actually altered the equation in the Orange Revolution, if you like. Even people point at the time Obama swept into office in 2008 against all odds. That was powered by young people. Now, still, you will find that this perhaps are more, if you like, developed democracies. Do you see that occurring, given the fact that as of now, a lot of the political elites are not supportive of the presidential bill of Peter Obi?
Thank you very much for that question. This is what I'll say. I won't say too much.
Yeah.
These political elites were once young activists. Once they had hope, and they were once young. And so they need to give room to the young people who are saying, we want to be heard, we want to participate. It's unfortunate that some of them aren't, towing this line. And it's understandable, because this is a democracy. It's okay for them to have those opinions. But then again, I will also disagree slightly, because I've attended a few rallies, I've attended a few meetings, and I hear people who are older who are now saying, you know what, it's time for us to hand over a better Nigeria to the children, to the young ones coming, because of good conscience. Some of them have actually, during these meetings, said, we failed you. We didn't do right by you. Perhaps, like you even rightly said, it's a young democracy. But it's a democracy all the same. And we want to grow. We want to progress. We want to move forward as an entity in unison. So for those who do not understand, I even want to believe that some of them are even closet obedience. And when the time is right, they will speak.
Well, now I'll just have to hold you there. We're just going to take a quick break, and then when we return, we continue while we stop. Viewers, we take a quick break now, and when we return, our guest, Nana Sani Kazori, we continue where she's stopped. Don't go away, stay tuned.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Sunday Politics on Trust Television. Our guests are Nana Sani Kazori and Obidiendt and Abdulaziz Suleiman, spokesperson of the Coalition of Northern Group. Unfortunately, who is still not here, but we're still expecting him. Just before we went on break, Nana Sani Kazori spoke about the demographics, about the support the Obidiendt movement enjoys across board, especially among young people. And just before we went on that break, he was speaking on the position of South, especially political elites. Now, let me take you back there to that issue of political elites who are not seen around Peter Obi, who have not blessed, especially in the Southeast. Now, let me be specific. You have political elites like the likes of Ike Ikoromadu, Jim Nwobodo. These are political, if you like, in their own right, very senior politicians. Ikoromadu, for example, was the former Deputy Senate President. He has been in the National Parliament for years. And Jim Nwobodo was the Second Republic governor of Old Anambra State. Now, there is this saying that young people, well, where I come from, their own is, after all the glitz and glitterati, that they actually don't last the distance without the guidance of the old. But you made a very strong case now about, yes, about older people, perhaps they have failed. Yes, still on that, because politics, they say, yes, he who controls, who owns the pond actually owns the fishes. You understand? I don't know how that strikes you.
It would be foolhardy for any one of us to think that because we're in a democracy or we're asking for certain changes and certain improvement in governance in Nigeria, it would be foolhardy, because I'm still a very traditional person, and I still believe that we do need to be tutored, to be handheld in some cases by our elders, by our elite, because they've been there, they see things in a different way than we probably would, and they cannot be dismissed. Their feelings, their angst, their advice, their suggestions, because they come with a wealth of experience which money can't buy. So these people are still part of the, they're part, as far as I know, in the groups and subgroups that I'm in, we don't dismiss them or think that we know it all. That would be us shooting ourselves in the foot. We clearly do not know it all, and they are an integral part of where Nigeria is, and they're the best people to say to us, do this, don't do this better, or leave this alone. And I think that's where the place for dialogue comes in. We must be more relational, because already young people feel that there's a divide and they're not properly represented. So the elites, as you call them, our elders, as you have mentioned, have to be a little bit more relational in disseminating information to us. We are very open.
Well, talking about dialogue and being relational, especially, well, along this age-long, if you like, divide, you know, young people, old people, especially in a democracy, and perhaps like you said, being guided, being tutored. But one would say, yeah, principal is guilty of not actually engaging people enough nationwide, especially there up north and in some parts of the country. It's not seen as engaging. His presence is not that visible. We've not seen him really actually engaging people, explaining his vision, the way he has been all over the place, especially in media, that he has not gone beyond certain places. How do you react to that? Is that valid?
I'm a northerner, so it's strange that people say he's not engaging northerners. Not to say that it's in his defense, but the truth of the matter is, I've watched northern politics, and one thing I do know about our northern politics is that we are seen and not heard. I do know that he's making inroads and he's courting those that need to be spoken to, because, you know, in the north, as you would know, we're very communal in our living. We're very family oriented. So I do not think that my principal is just going to jump on stage somewhere in Kazori, for example, and just decide that, oh, you know what, I'm here and I'm here to speak. There's a way things are done, and due process is being followed by my principal and his vice president.
Are you saying,
well,
as we speak now, he's engaging political actors, opinion molders, people who have influence at the communal level, like you're saying? Are you saying that we do that? As
yes, he is, and we will see the trajectory.
Is it so the strategy, as you being a northerner and then an Obidiendt, you recommended to your principal?
I don't understand the question.
What I mean is that, like you said, there's clearly a different cultural, political orientation vis-a-vis north-south.
Yes.
That up north, according to your hypothesis, is that we are seen, we do all the calculations quietly without being, if you like, noisy about that.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
That's our style, yes.
Yes. So are you saying now that Obi and his running mate are, as we speak now, engaging people using that age-long established protocol?
That is exactly what I'm
engaging
saying. Yes, there are boots on ground, and they are engaging. You must also understand that the campaigns have not begun in earnest yet. By the time the ban by ANEC is lifted on campaigns, you will see it differently. Well,
the campaign is 3 short days away, and till this moment, or less as we speak now, the Presidential Campaign Council list of your principal is made public. How do you see that with such, 3 short days, 2 hours of the campaign? People don't know who are actually doing what in the Labour Party.
But we know who is doing what in the Labour Party. In due time, those names, the lists, everything will be announced. We still have 72 hours. We need maybe some tweaks here and there, but the list will be announced. We are as transparent as should be, especially for the office we are going for. So we have an Obi and a Yusuf Baba Ahmed who are very relational with us. They listen. That's one amazing thing about them, is that they actually do listen and they do the needful.
Now, how often do you sit, for example now, given, the agenda, how often do you sit, do you communicate with your principal? How often? I mean, I'm sure you're in part of the inner caucus.
Yeah, we have our social media platforms, because you know that he's been very busy.
Exactly.
He's been everywhere and he has a really tight schedule. But we communicate as often as possible. Thank God, technology has made it really easy that we don't have to be living and breathing in the same room for us to get instructions, for us to know what next to do, for us to know what our schedules should be. And he has a very hands-on team where everybody knows we have round pegs in round holes, and everybody's just moving. And that just shows you the kind of government that a man like Peter Obi brings to us: competence, credibility, and good character. A man who just is here to serve. He's not stuck up. He doesn't take himself as if he's so high up. We are very interactive on our platforms, and that gives me a lot of hope. It gives all of us that are part of the team a lot of hope.
Well, Nana Sani Kazori, it's been wonderful talking with you in the last couple of minutes, almost half an hour.
Thank you very
Unfortunately, the second guest who was supposed to be here has not turned up. But we thank you very much for sparing time to be with us. Thank you very much. We hope that next time we will call you, you'll be here.
I will.
Yeah, well, viewers, we've come to the end of today's program. We'll see you another time. Goodbye.